We've been in a sermon series this summer entitled A Beautiful Beginning. And that's in part because I'm new to you and you are new to me. I'm beginning as your new pastor. And for the guests in the room and visitors in the room, I started June 30th. And so we're just enjoying the summer together, getting to know one another, and focusing on a beautiful beginning, the aspects of a beautiful beginning in our lives. It works for the church, but it also works for our personal lives. I suppose in a room this size of people, there are people who are beginning something new or ending something. It's very common in life to begin something and to end something. It's the nature of things. We're born and we live and we die. So we wish for a beautiful beginning together as a church community and in our lives. We've been looking at different aspects of a beautiful beginning. What might a beautiful beginning look like? What might be comprised of a beautiful beginning? And we looked the first week at cherishing our past. The paradox is that to cherish the past is to help begin again in a beautiful way. That is to say that the past shapes the present and the future. The past is alive with us right now. You can just close your eyes and remember something from childhood, something beautiful from childhood, and it's a part of your present. Just because we're beginning anew doesn't mean that we lose touch with the past. Then we looked at the gift of being in the present moment, how important it is to be in the present moment. It's so easy to slip out of the present moment into the future with worry and anxiety. It's also easy to slip out of the present into the past with pining and longing and nostalgia. All those are appropriate things. But beginning a new church and a new pastorate, we have to cherish the past, not hold on to the past, and be shaped by the past, but not be addicted to the past. New pastors do things differently. Things change. Times move on. New microphones are needed. And then we looked at the power of the future and how what we wish for, what we hope for, ends up being drawn to us. So often we get what we want. I use the illustration of, we go where we're looking. When my dad taught me to ride the bike, he said, don't look down at the ground, look where you want to go. Look where you want to go and you'll get there. Where are you looking? And so the power of the future to bring a new future to ourselves because we're looking in a new way to new things. New inspiration draws us up. Look up and be inspired. What will that be for us? I wonder as a church community what things we will be drawn to in the future. Who will be in the future? And then we looked at the quality of the grace of place and how important place is, and how place shapes us. We build our houses and our houses build us, someone said. It's so true that we come to a new place and that place shapes us and we shape it. The grace of place, how good it is to be here in Telluride. What a unique place to be Christ Presbyterian Church. Unlike anything I've ever experienced. You can daydream about skiing when the pastor's preaching and be inspired literally by looking up the window. How amazing is this community? How amazing. How lucky to be here. How blessed to be here. Even if just for a week. Even if just for a day. Marcia and I stood in that garden in 2021 on a whim. We just were visiting Telluride. She wanted to show me Telluride. And I found this church by taking the dog for a walk. And I said, this place is amazing. And she said, well, if it ever opens up, you should apply. And sure enough, 2 years later, she reminded me, if that church ever opens up, you should apply. I looked online that day, and the position had just opened. These things are wonderful. This place is a place of grace. Very special, very grateful to be here. Do you feel that? The grace of this place. Of course, every place has a grace. But to learn what the special grace of this place is to love it and to share it with others. And I know you do. I'm talking to the choir. And last week we looked at the hope of rope. The rope of hope, I should say. I get confused. The rope of hope, which was a poetic way of saying that hope lifts us up. It's like a rope sent from above. Grab it, hold on to it, and it will lift you up. It will give you hope. What is your rope of hope that you're reaching toward. Hope for the future, hope for what this church can become and be. Hope for our lives, who you wish to be and become more fully. So these are some of the aspects of beginning well, a beautiful beginning that we've been talking about. And today, very briefly, I want to talk about the aspect of being grounded in faith, that our beginnings are grounded in faith, that we start a new beginning with faith. It's kind of like an innocence. It's kind of like a white sheet. It can be anything. It's such a powerful blank slate of faith. It's just like raw plutonium. It's very powerful. It can do anything. It can move a mountain, so to speak, poetically. What is your faith? What is faith? We'll talk about that today. I don't want to keep the dogs waiting, so I'm going to keep this more brief than normal. Faith starts early in life. I learned to not trust what a man says to me early in life. I learned to not trust what my dad said to me early in life. And so as a young boy, I didn't know this, but I had a problem with faith. I didn't believe my dad. I didn't believe my uncles, in part because I didn't know this. They were drunk when they said things. So when my uncle Ron, who passed away, said to me when I was a 6-year-old boy, and as a 6-year-old boy, all I thought about were BMX bikes and tools. And he said to me, "Peter, I'll give you all my toolboxes for Christmas." I didn't know he was drunk and wouldn't remember a word he said. But that next morning on Christmas Day, I was sure I was going to get those tools. And you know what that left in my heart as a 6-year-old boy? Don't believe them. Don't trust them. When my dad told me he would take me fishing in the morning, he'd wake up at 5 and we'd go early. I was so excited I could barely sleep. I was in 3rd grade. I got up, door was closed to his bedroom, opened it up, lights were off. He was snoring. I didn't wake him up. I've never gone fishing since. I don't like to fish. Why? Decades later, something about not trusting a man, what they tell you, your father, leaves an imprint in a little boy's heart. It's hard to trust what a man says. Perhaps some of you have had experiences like that. Too, it's very common. And you know, I don't mean to speak badly of my elders and my fathers and uncles. I have empathy for them. I feel sad for them because my dad was one of 12 children, and my grandfather, his father, was a tool and die maker who worked on his feet at Briggs & Stratton in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 12-hour days, and came home and drank Blatz. He had no energy for his children. He wasn't a father, and so my father didn't know how to be a father. And so it goes. Faith is a part of the human condition really deep down. We learn to trust by the voice of our mother in the womb. We learn to trust in our first breaths when we lay on mother's chest after birth or on father's chest. We learn whether life is safe or dangerous really early on in life. And for many people, faith is hard. It's so nebulous, isn't it? The word faith in English. It can be so cheapened, like just have faith, just believe, just trust. But what does it mean to actually have faith? The Greek word is very interesting. It's the Greek word pistis, which phonetically doesn't have many nice sounds to it in English, pistis. It's not a very lovely sound. But isn't that also an element of a flower? Something like that? So there's something about this word that's very powerful. But at its root, it doesn't mean intellectually believe or think or trust what someone's saying. It has a more emotional quality to it that is along the lines of trust. But it's more along the lines of consenting, like you're literally going soft on the inside and not trying to grab it yourself. It's a very, very nuanced word. In our culture, we celebrate people who achieve, go get it, do it. Success is number one, and that's great. I'm so thankful for successful people, for successful companies, for a successful nation. We need it. But faith isn't making something happen. Faith isn't grabbing it and making it happen. And this is where it's important for the beginning, the beautiful beginning. Faith is a letting be. It's letting the river flow and not resisting or trying to push the river. It's a consent inside us that makes us soft to say, I'll give it a chance. I'll give it a shot. I'll let it be and see what unfolds. That's the heart, that emotional quality of faith. Faith is not getting on top of it with certainty, like we so often feel secure when we've got everything buttoned up, when our retirement is secure, our healthcare is secure, when everything looks great. That's not faith. That's something else. Faith is kind of a letting be. It's not a passivity, because you do participate in co-creating what comes. But that heart of faith is letting something bigger than you take you and bring you into something fuller than you could ever imagine. Now, the passage that Don read is from Hebrews chapter 11. It's called the Great Hall of Faith because it goes on for verses and verses and verses. And reading it is hard to publicly read because of all the different names. But I encourage you to read the whole chapter at some point, maybe later today or tomorrow. Read the whole chapter. All these examples of men and women throughout the scriptures who had this quality of letting be, of trusting on the inner level of their heart and emotions. It's not everything of the spiritual journey, but it's a part of the journey. And they are referenced as people who are models of this kind of quality of consenting to letting God be God and getting out of the way. It says that faith, pistis, this consent, is the assurance of things hoped for and a conviction of things not seen. It's a beautiful parallelism. The Hebrew poets do this all the time. It's almost, if you can bear with this, it's like a rap. Faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the convictions of things not seen. It's poetic. Now, what does this mean? Very briefly. To be the assurance of things hoped for, the Greek word for assurance is the word hypostasis. It's a very important theological word for those of you who have any education theologically. You know the hypostatic union. Not going to go there. Hypostasis. Hypo meaning under. Stasis meaning foundation, or stasis is that strength of one-pointedness. You know the word homeostasis, where everything is equalized. Hypostasis is being under all that's going on in life, all the surface turbulence of life, being under it and one-pointed. It's like being grounded like cement in the ground, deep in the foundation of the building, deep down, grounded under everything else, one-pointed, holding everything up. Hypostasis is that which undergirds all understanding, all things, to be undergirded by this faith. It's the assurance because it's undergirded. Perhaps you've gone to a big city or even walked down the road here and seen the construction going on, and people are building foundations deep down. And the buildings in New York City, for example, that I've seen being built, to the extent that they can go up 100 stories or more, is possible because they go down at least a quarter or half of that into the ground. The hypostasis, holding up those towers. It's astounding. This is the assurance of things hoped for because it's holding everything underneath you. You can't see it because it's not you. It's something bigger than you. That's faith. What's holding you gives you that faith and assurance. It's not you holding yourself. It's God, who is the hypostasis of the whole universe, and universe is. It's incomprehensible foundation of reality itself, beyond what we can ever imagine. Like a dog can only understand a few things about being human. They know We're the source of their love and food and so much goodness. But they just get a little bit. We understand so much more than the dog. That's kind of like understanding God. We only get a little bit. God's that hypostasis, that foundation holding all things, even things that are falling apart. The assurance of things hoped for, and lastly, the convictions of things not seen. That's so powerful. The convictions of the real that is beyond seeing. That's a good definition of the spiritual dimension, or even the quantum level of physics. We can't really see it with the naked eye, what's going on at the quantum level, but it's energy, it's holding all things together, it's life itself, in communication with other things. It's the assurance and the conviction of things not seen. So the real comes from the invisible to our sight, beyond the spectrum of visible light. It comes from deeper than that, beyond that. It comes from spirit, which is a kind of energy that is infused with love. And that love, that spirit that holds all things together at an invisible level is there for us at this moment, no matter what's happening to us, no matter what's happening in our world. Spirit's holding all things together. We can't see it. On the surface we see the divisions. On the surface we see the frictions. On the surface we see the fears. On the surface we see so many things that we wish could be different. But faith is the assurance of that which is holding us, and the conviction of things that are beyond our physical sight, but we can see with the inner eye. As Plotinus said, close your eyes and see with the inner eye. It's a beautiful invitation to see beyond the physical dimension of things. That's faith. People who are far seers are like the medicine men in the native traditions. They close their eyes and they see with a deeper interconnected faith that understands the interconnectedness of everyone and everything. And thus they reverence it and hold it holy, and are able to speak powerful words of truth that change people's lives and bring healing. It's something to wish for your own life. To begin again right now at 50 or 60 or 70 or 80 or 20 or 100, whatever it might be, begin again now to live a life more consented to the power of faith in you. Now we've talked around faith. Notice we're not talking about what we have faith in, other than the fact that the faith is in us and has us. That's the point I'm trying to make. This isn't about what I believe doctrinally. This is about what is holding me, what is my foundation, and that is my faith. Not that I know these things, but that I don't know anything, and I hold it because it holds me. It's powerful. It's hard to put words on, but the mystics and the poets know how to say it better than I. You've heard what I've had to say. Let's take a moment in the silence. What's the Spirit speaking to you today? As we begin our chant coming out of our time of teaching, I invite you to feel the center holding you, the center of love and life. Let's join together and stand and sing this beautiful chant, You Are the Center.